You know what's a little bit funny is, ooh, I think the audio is really high on this. Hold on. There we go. I think that should be better. What's funny is that I was having some issues with this software that I use to go live, and it didn't occur to me that I could just switch from my two computers. I actually have a desktop, which I'm using right now, that I always place my webcam on top of, but I typically connect it to my laptop, and it never occurred to me to use both. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's a techie thing. I'm having like some interesting tech aha moments. I just installed a new mouse to this computer, and I love all things tech, if you didn't know this about me. Also, before I proceed, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the last video, so I wanted to make sure that I say it here. And that is, I have a newish batch of the Eco Vegan Pal care packages, and I think there are less than 20 left now. So I just want to make sure you knew about them, and I'll do a quick screen share in a second to show you. I just have to get the link into this video, and sorry for the echo. I've been having some other issues with the software I use. I love this software I use to go live, but the one downside is that it doesn't put things in the description properly. So care packages, I'm putting that in there now and turning something else on. Okay, so a little behind the scenes for you. Let me show you the care packages if you haven't seen them before. Some of you are going to be familiar with them. And I love putting these together. It's also been incredibly helpful to have an assistant. It has just been like completely, it's changed everything for me. And she helped me put together these care packages. She also made one of her own. She's been helping me with comments and emails. So if you haven't noticed, I've been really so much more on top of communication over the past few months, and it's just like phenomenal. And that's part of what I want to talk about today. But first, let me show you the care packages. I'll do that later. And yeah, so this is it. So you can see that there are all these different boxes here, and some of them are sold out. That means somebody has already purchased them. And you can go in and see what's in each box. So this box has a book and a bag and some snacks and some superfoods and my favorite bamboo toothbrush and a pen. And so you can come here and just look at the description. So each box is unique, and some of them are sold out, like box 2 and box 3 have been sold already. Box 4, I think, has been sold. A lot of them, they're going pretty fast. So I want to make sure that you knew about them and didn't miss out. And also, for every purchase you get, in addition to getting all the amazing things that are in here, which some of the values are really high. Some of them are like upwards of $30, $40, $50, or $60. And then in addition to whatever's in the box, you're also going to get a free 3-month membership to Eco Vegan Pal, which includes a copy of my ebook, Healthy Organic Vegan on a Budget. So that all combined, the book is $21, and then the membership for 3 months would be like $27, I think. So it's a really good value that you get when you sign up for this. Plus you get a special care packages from me, and usually it'll be roughly what's in the photos. Sometimes we have to remove things if like they've expired by the time someone's ordered them. We've been trying really hard to make sure. Some people actually don't really care that much about slightly expired stuff, because usually the expiration dates are like way more like strict and not as liberal. Little fun fact, but for those of you that are sensitive about it, we've been like really diligent to make sure that nothing is expired in the boxes. And then sometimes we'll swap it out for other things, or we'll add other things in if I receive them. For instance, last night I received some things I'm going to add to care packages. So you never know what you're going to get, and it's so fun to send them to you because it feels like I get to share part of my life with you on a deeper level. And I know how nice it is to get boxes in the mail. I love getting any sort of delivery. So that's that. The link is down below. Check it out. We're going to be either pausing it, or I guess we'll just wait till they sell out. But I'm traveling 2 weeks from today. And so you really just have 2 weeks from the date that I recorded this video to order them. Otherwise, you'll have to wait till October. And I don't know what the timeline of the boxes will be after that. So that's that. And I just want to make sure that I said that at the beginning of this video, because of my last video, I think I didn't mention it to the end because I completely forgot. So really, I think part of the reason I wanted to record today's video is because I'm procrastinating a bit. I have this big task for my business, which is creating a media kit and like just getting a lot more organized about how to work with brands. I've gone back and forth over the years about how those relationships take place, and it's just very overwhelming to me, and it's bringing up a lot of resistance. So basically, I get emailed a lot from brands that want to work with me. But what tends to happen is a lot of these brands underestimate my experience and my knowledge and my abilities as a content creator. And it's really interesting. I actually might be projecting emotions onto that statement, so I don't know if that's fully true. But from my perspective, I feel like my value is not often fully understood. So what I really want to do is to create this really in-depth page on my upcoming website. So if you didn't know this already, I'm getting like a whole brand refresh, and that's going to take place over the rest of the year. And one of the things I've been doing is switching things over to WhitneyLauritsen.com, because I'm thinking of that being the name of my brand. But, you know, I'm actually also coming up on my 1-year anniversary with Eco Vegan Gal. I mean, 1 year. 10 year. So October 20th of this year will be 10 years of Eco Vegan Gal. And I have changed a lot since then. You know, this brand started as a hobby, and I've experimented so much over the years. And I really don't want to just be boxed in as a content creator and an influencer, because it just doesn't feel like the best representation of who I am. I think if anything, I would use the term maybe thought leader or something, but to me that also feels like a little pretentious. I don't know. So I'm trying to figure out exactly how to market myself, and that's such an interesting thing, you know. I think it'd be really helpful for me to work with a whole brand manager or something, but in the meantime, I've been doing it all myself. So I've been designing my new website myself, and hopefully later this year, I'll have the budget to hire a actual web designer that can help me do all sorts of fancy things and make it look really nice and professional beyond my capabilities. So anyways, I think that part of the reason I wanted to make this video today, to be fully transparent, is because I have just like been finding every excuse to put off working on this. And it's so interesting. I felt this was also a topic that resonates with a lot of people, is that a lot of us self-sabotage. A lot of us find all these small ways to get in the way of reaching our goals, oftentimes because we don't feel like we can reach them or that we're good enough for them. And if you've been following my journey long enough, you know that I often don't feel good enough. I actually have, speaking of the Eco Vegan Pal membership, if you're just joining, welcome. And be sure to go back to the beginning of this video, because I talked a lot about the Eco Vegan Pal care packages, which I will show you on the screen here. So I have a limited supply of these care packages, and there's a link down below. And one of the things that you get is a 3-month membership to the Eco Vegan Pal community. And one of the features of that community is the uncensored private group. And you can kind of like apply to get in that group. All you have to do is send me a video message, which not only confirms your identity, because sadly these days people can make up all sorts of fake identities, but you also can tell me more about yourself so that I feel more connected to you and I know who I'm talking to. And a few days ago, I think, yeah, it was 2 days ago, I created a really, really vulnerable video and posted it in there. And it brought up so many emotions. I was crying and I was having all these realizations about things from my childhood. And those are the sort of things that I share from time to time in there. So it's kind of cool because if you get the care package, you also get to get a peek and a feel for the community and see if it's something that you want to be part of, and you can do that for free. And yeah, so if you're interested in being part of the private uncensored group, you can send me a message once you're in Eco Vegan Pal, and you can email me, and then I can tell you about how you can kind of apply to get in there. And yeah, basically, I just want to know who I'm talking to. There are certain things that I don't share here publicly on this page, not to like keep it as an exclusive, but simply because I don't feel comfortable. I've mentioned this in the past, but I'll say it again for anyone who hasn't heard me talk about this, is there's been a few times where I've posted content on YouTube publicly and it's resulted in some things that made me feel really uncomfortable. There's a couple people over the years that I feel like almost felt like they were invading my privacy a bit, and they know a little bit too much about me, and they were making weird demands of me, and there was just kind of some weirdness happening. And so that was actually one of my big visions for creating Eco Vegan Pal, the community, because I wanted to have a safer place. I wanted to know who I was talking to. On YouTube, you're talking to anyone once you make a video public. I don't know who the people are that are watching. For some reason, there's also a big increase in viewers. Maybe it's the timing, but thank you to everyone who's watching live. And again, I'll say it one more time since the viewership just spiked, but link down below is the Eco Vegan care packages. And I wanted to make sure you knew about these because they're selling out fairly fast. I have less than 20 of these available. They're really cool. And if you click the link in the description, you can learn more about it, and it includes membership to Eco Vegan Pal, and that's what I just talked about. So you might want to actually go back to the beginning of this video and hear me talk about those things in depth. But anyway, so my point in bringing that up was partially because I had this realization a few days ago about where some of my resistances are and some of my feelings of not being good enough. And to summarize it for you and those of you who are not part of the uncensored group in the Eco Vegan Pal community, is that I feel like maybe my view of what it meant to be loved, which most of us develop from our parents, right? So how our parents raise us, how our parents show affection to us, for most of us shapes our whole idea of what it feels like to be loved. And so my mom is a very critical person. I've talked about in the past how I believe my mother is a classic narcissist, and through reading this book and doing some research, a lot of her qualities are very common for narcissists. And I think that what happened is that I started to feel like being loved meant that I was always doing something wrong and I was never good enough. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to explain because I don't think I ever had that realization. And Rachel, who is watching now live, saw this video I posted in the private community. And thank you, Rachel, for watching. And I sent out your care package yesterday, so you should be getting that very soon. Rachel is one of the most amazing people that I've met through doing Eco Vegan Gal, so I just want to give her a shout out. She's just been part of my life in so many ways, and that's one of the most amazing elements of doing what I do, and the reason that I have the Eco Vegan Pal community and the care packages and do this channel and all that. But anyways, I feel like I hit this aha moment about myself. And I really encourage each of you to try to look inwards and look back on your history and how you were raised and your parents' actions and what they meant for you. And I think what is part of my personal self-sabotage and resistance in life is that I always felt growing up like I was doing something wrong. And I have that undertone throughout, I think, my entire life. It's a new thing for me, so I've got a lot to reflect on now. But I notice this a lot. I get easily triggered when people criticize me because it feels really hurtful, and it brings back a lot of these feelings of not being good enough, these feelings of thinking, wow, I really have to be careful. Like, I have to watch every single step I take, because if I take the wrong step, I'm going to be criticized for it. And that means that I won't be loved. And that means that I don't feel safe. And that means that I have to always be on guard, and I always have to be protecting myself, and I have to be uh, very cautious, and I have to plan everything. And I think I've learned over time, and I think a lot of us learn this when we're in school, for example. It's like preparation is everything. So for me, it's like I always felt like I had to study for things to be prepared for a test. Because if I didn't do well on the test, not only did I feel like I was letting my teacher down, but then my parents, as many parents are, would be critical of my grades. And then the grades ended up leading towards certain opportunities. And my mom and dad, I think, always wanted me to like be my best, but they seemed kind of attached to the novelty of if I had really good grades and if I was not valedictorian. I was pretty far away from that, but like a honor student. I think I was an honor student. And then they would have like the AP level. So like my parents, especially my mom, felt very attached to the merits, and like, I don't know what else word I would use there, but the college. So where I would go to college, your grades would often influence which college you would get into. And I didn't get into my top choice, and it was like a pretty hard school to get into, and it was really upsetting when I didn't get in there. But not just for me, I feel like it was upsetting for my parents too, because they want to say their daughter goes to this school or whatever. And I think that's so common for us. And for me, what that ended up cultivating is this, like, if I'm not prepared, I'm not going to do well enough, and then I'm not going to get the love that I want, and then I am not going to feel safe. I have a lot of like safety and trust issues too, and they manifest in very subtle ways. So they manifest in my sleepwalking and sleep talking. I've talked about this a bit, but in summary, I've been using all sorts of recording devices over the past few years to track when I sleep talk and what I say and how I sleepwalk and all of that. And the common theme for all of that sleepwalking and sleep talking is I'm terrified of someone breaking in. I'm scared that I lost something or left something behind. I feel like underprepared. Like, I feel like my whole life has this thread through of not feeling prepared enough. And so when I don't feel in control, and I don't feel like I'm organized, and I feel like I'm letting things slip through the cracks, all these negative emotions come up. I actually got a massage last week, and I'm getting another one tonight. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm doing a trade with my friend, which is so awesome, because body work is something that I haven't prioritized very much. And I think body work, like massage, is so helpful in moving emotions and just getting stuck energy out of your body. And also, like, because I've been working out so much, it's so super helpful for your muscles. And on my last week's massage, the massage therapist, who's also one of my very good friends, told me she felt like she was detecting armor on my body. And she was talking a lot about like the ability to truly relax and let go. And so my goal for tonight is to like really let go and release and just like take off the armor, the like energetic armor for the session, and maybe just start to reduce it as it is. And coming back to what I was saying earlier, is I think that we often develop these types of armors on ourselves to protect ourselves. So for me, it's like, if I'm prepared enough and I do my research and I know what I'm getting myself into, then there's a very good chance that I'm not going to mess it up and I'm not going to let anybody down. And that means that I'll be loved, and that means that I'll be safe, right? But in addition, I think I'm also very commonly anticipating that lack of safety. So then I put on the armor. It's like, I got to be really strong, and I got to be prepared, and I don't want to let anyone down, and I don't want anyone to see my weaknesses and all that, which is ironic because I'm sharing with you my weaknesses right now. But these are just the complex things that end up ruling our life. And for those of you who joined a little later in this video, you can always rewind back to the beginning. I started talking about the self-sabotage and where resistance comes up. And I've been struggling to commit to getting this one project done for my business. And this project is really important. It's so vital. Like every single day I'm like, ugh, I should have this done and I can't move forward until I get this done. So I also like to think, sometimes I like to put myself as much as possible in like the shoes as if I were talking to somebody else, like a student, because I do business coaching. And so I try to like step outside of myself and think like, what advice would I give myself? And the advice that I would give myself in this situation is that I have to work through that resistance. I think for you, if you are resonating with this, is that one of the best ways to work through resistance is to just do it. So I debated whether or not to do this video, but I feel like I'm building up, I'm releasing some emotions and concerns, and I can channel my energy into my work as soon as I finish this video. So number one is just to do the work, but number two is to really get clear on what's getting in your way. And I have to really think deeply about why I'm so resistant to finishing this relatively simple project, sitting down and just doing the work. And I think what it is it is self-sabotage. And there's this idea that I'm going to put all this work into something and it's not going to be good enough. That's part of it. So sometimes it's like that why bother mentality. Does anybody else feel that way too? If you're watching live, feel free to comment. I love reading your comments, and let me pull them up so I can see them. Thank you to Rachel who chimed in. Does anybody else feel like they really want something, but they don't do it because they feel like it's not going to work out? I also feel that way about my body. So one thing I've been thinking a lot about over the past month or so, I shifted my diet, I shifted my exercise, I've been more committed to exercise, and I've just been like very, very focused on my body. Hopefully not in an obsessive way. It feels pretty healthy to me, but there's a fine line with that, especially if you have a history of disordered eating. And anyways, one thing I think a lot about is like, why do I hold weight in my hips and my stomach? Like that's like my whole life, or as long as I can remember when I started like a preteen and started to become aware of my body, I just noticed that I had like that layer of fat on my stomach and my hips. And aside from that being common for a lot of women, it's also like there's plenty of women out there that don't have that, and they kind of just like naturally don't carry weight there, it seems, including my sister. So I'm like, okay, my sister and my mom don't have that challenge, so why do I have that? To me, it's like I've tried so many things over time. It's got to be something emotional. Maybe I have like a safety. Maybe part of how I feel safe is having that stomach fat and that hip fat, right? And how do I figure out where those emotions are so I can get clear to the root and just let it go? I'm working on it, and it's hard. I've read books about this, and I've done meditations, there's like weight loss meditation, there's all these things, and I'm like, what is it that's keeping that there? And I think it comes a lot back to what I've been talking about today, and how maybe that's part of my armor. Maybe somewhere back in like my youth, I developed this idea that if I had extra fat around my stomach and my hips, that I would be safe. Consciously, that makes no sense to me because it doesn't feel safe. And this is actually where it gets a little bit deeper. So for those of you that are really into the subject matter and trying to figure out where you're self-sabotaging and where you might have resistance, there's almost like a non-logical thing, right? So what I'm starting to reflect upon is, not only do I feel like I'm not good enough and I constantly have to work hard to prove myself and I have to be prepared, all those things I just mentioned, but I think there's also a mentality that in order to get love, I have to screw up. Now that's where it gets really interesting. If you have parents like I do, there was like this constant, maybe it's like I'm still processing this, so bear with me, but it was like I was trying to get love from different angles. So with my mom, to this day, it's so hard to get my mom's approval. A lot of my mom's approval comes from my appearance, right? So the times where I'll really hear that my mom cares about me is often when it comes to how I look. That's where like most of my mom's compliments come from. So that I'm trying to like think of another time. I'm like stumped, but I know the first place when I think of my mom complimenting me, it's when I look really nice. And to her, she wants my hair to be perfectly cut and my makeup to be perfect and my outfit to look really fancy and my accessories to be right and my body to be in good shape. I'm someone that doesn't really like to go through all that work all the time. I'll do that. Like when I go out, for parties, events, whatever, I'll dress up for it. But most days I look like this. Like I don't wear any makeup. I think I might have brushed my hair today, but sometimes I don't. And my hair right now has a ton of split ends. I'm getting it cut next week, but I don't really care. And like, I'm just wearing a tank top and I'm carrying around whatever bag. And like that to my mom, she would be like embarrassed to be seen with me if we went out. I think that's at least what she makes it seem like. I don't know what my mom really thinks because it's hard to get to the root of that. So imagine going your entire life. And if any of you can relate to this, I'd love to hear it from you in the comments, live or after the fact. But for most of my life, I have been battling this idea of like, oh my gosh, my mom is embarrassed to be seen with me, or my mom doesn't think that I'm pretty enough, or my mom thinks that I'm too heavy, or the only way to get my mom to compliment me is if I'm thin enough and my hair is right and my makeup looks good and I have the right accessory and I have the right clothing. But there's also a part of me that's like, screw that. I don't want to go through all that. That's not me. At the core, I don't care about that stuff. Now, luckily, I only see my mom a few times a year, as sad as that statement sounds, but I feel like when I see my mom, there's one of two things that happens. I'm either working really hard to try to get her approval, or I'm like, well, this is how I look today, and she's probably going to say something kind of mean to me about it, but whatever. And then there's like this tension of like, sometimes she won't say anything, and in my head, I'm like, what is she thinking? Is she judging me right now? Like, I mean, my mom is one of those people that like, I put on a pair of shoes, and if it's not the right pair of shoes in her mind, she'll comment. She'll be like, oh, you're wearing those? I can't tell you, like shoes, I can't tell you how many times my mom said that. Or I remember I had this handbag, and I was going to New York City, and I think I was like going to go on a date with somebody there or something. And we were like talking about this guy. And right before I got on the train to go to New York City, like literally a minute beforehand, she goes, oh, you're bringing that purse? And I was like, yeah, what's wrong with the purse? And my mom's like, she makes this face and started like laughing. And she's like, no, it's fine. But like, I could tell it wasn't fine in her head. She's like, it just looks a little outdated, Literally right before I went to New York City, I didn't have a chance to change my bag. And like, I'm already feeling nervous about going and on this date and all that stuff. And I'm like, and it's like that horrible, vulnerable feeling of my mom just like rejecting me and telling me there's something wrong with me. And like, my mom's a big source of love. And then here I am about to go on a date, maybe another potential source of love, but I'm already feeling insecure. So it's like all of that stuff that builds and builds and builds, right? So to come back to like the weight thing, it's very complicated because I don't know why I've always had that extra layer of fat on my stomach and hips. Like especially right now where I'm working out so many times a week and I'm eating and I'm fat, like everything that I'm doing right now in my life is designed to help burn away fat. And I have lost weight. I'm going to talk about that on my other channel, but I have made progress. It's just still like this head scratcher throughout my whole life. It's been very challenging for me to take off that layer. So why am I holding on to it? Is this like a defense mechanism? The other thing I meant to get to, but I'll come back to now, is that I feel like there's like two different ways to approach love. So if you look at my relationship with my mother, which is, it has like the most tension that I've experienced in my family, is my mother is very critical. And it's like such a rare experience to get my mom to say, "Oh, you look really nice, Whitney." And I love, she'll say, "I love you." She actually does say that very frequently. But it's like, it comes in times where I'm not really expecting it. She very rarely tells me she's proud of me. Like, it just feels like I never know how my mom feels about me, right? So one approach to get my mom's love and approval would be to try to always look perfect and act perfect and do the things that result in praise. But I found over time that I can do those things and still not get good feedback from my mom. So I suppose there's another side of me that's like, well, I'm going to try really hard and I may or may not get approval from her. So since it's really exhausting to try to do all those things, maybe I shouldn't even bother. Maybe I should just hold on to weight around my stomach. And I think that there's another layer to this, whereas perhaps as a kid, I knew there was two ways to get attention from my mom. One way was to look perfect, and another way was to not look perfect by her standards, which in turn still meant I would get attention from her. And I would get, it might be negative attention, but sometimes, especially as kids, any attention is good, right? I think that's the classic thing where white kids act out and they're bullies and they're mean and they fail. And sometimes people try to get attention from their family members the opposite way, right? So you either can get the praise type of attention, or you get the like concern type of attention, or you get the angry type of attention. And I wonder if somewhere deep down, holding on to that weight was another way to get my mom to notice me and to talk to me and to tell me that she cared. And it was really interesting. This is all new for me, right? I don't think I had thought about this a few months ago when I last saw my mom, but what was fascinating is my mom actually pointed out that she thought that I had gained weight, and she said it to me 2 or 3 times while I was home, and one of the times was so deeply painful, and because I felt just so rejected by my mom. And my mom's justification for saying those things was that she cared about me. And so whether or not this is true, which she says the reason that she had was that she was concerned that I was gaining weight and that had something to do with my long-term health. And so she wanted to make sure that I knew that I was gaining weight. I 100% knew that I was like a little bigger over the past couple months. I knew that. I was super self-conscious about it. I hated the fact that my clothes felt tighter and that I just looked more bloated or whatever. Like, of course I knew that. How would I have not known? But my mom thought that she needed to bring attention to it just in case I didn't know. So that felt hurtful, but then it's like, what if she's been doing that to me my whole life? And even though it hurt, it almost still felt like a way to get her attention. It's very odd, right? But I think we're just so complex as human beings that we think these things on some deep level that don't even make any logical sense. But our desire as human beings for love is so strong, especially when it comes to family members, is that sometimes we'll go great lengths and bizarre lengths to get love. And it's possible that I've self-sabotaged my desire to get in great shape, because somehow I think if I keep a few extra layers of fat on my body, that I'm safer, or that I'll get more attention, even if it's not the conscious attention that I'm seeking. I think sometimes people use weight to hide. And I know that a lot of the times when I feel self-conscious about my body, I like want to wear clothes that hide it, and I don't want anyone to like see me, and I feel like I just kind of want to shrink back, and like I guess sometimes shrinking back feels safer because if people don't see you, then they can't criticize you. I feel like weight is such a complex thing. And I think I'm going to spend such a great part of my life exploring this. I do have a new ebook coming out called Healthy Balanced Vegan Body. And I plan to explore a lot of these subject matters in that book, maybe not quite as deep as I just got, but just how important it is to try to get back to the root of why we eat the way that we do and why we feel the way that we do about our bodies and shame and all these different elements. So it's a topic I'm very passionate about because I don't want to go my whole life sabotaging myself. Like I want to feel healthy and balanced. I want to feel strong and empowered. I want to feel like I can get to my goals without facing all this resistance all the time. And Green Dragon asked live, I'm going to put this on screen. Do my parents complain about spending too much money on certain things? And I would say yes. I think, and it's interesting, this is a whole nother topic, but money is also such a huge thing, especially from our parental figures and family members in general, is to see how our parents deal with money and how that translates to how we deal with money and think about money. So definitely, and I've explored this a lot. I have the ebook Healthy Organic Vegan on a Budget, and there's this whole section in that book about money and mindset and all of that, and that's something I talk a lot about in my coaching and just so much of my work. I think more and more as I evolve my brand, I want to talk more about money in my work. So you'll probably see that subject coming up a lot. In terms of my parents, I know that money was just like, it was something that was discussed a lot in terms of like limitations, right? Like the budget was a big thing. I remember like we would have coupons and certain amounts of money that we would spend at the grocery store. And like as a kid, I remember like wanting to buy certain things and my parents being like, oh, that's too much. I know that like when I wanted certain toys or clothing or experiences, there was always talk around money. But my parents also are the type of people that spend good amounts of money on luxury items. Like cars are a big thing that my parents would spend their money on. Not like it would be like every 5 years or whatever when they got a new car, but like it would always be the really nice car, especially over the years, as time went on, my parents started like getting nicer and nice kid, maybe not as much. My parents would spend money on education, so they were very generous about college and summer programs, and I traveled abroad. My parents supported me financially through all that stuff, which was huge. So yeah, there's an interesting thing, and I think I act very similarly. I tend to spend money on big purchases, like life, how our parents acted around us, how they became our role models, how we modeled ourselves after their behavior, and also just the things that we would hear and the mindsets that we would develop. So to work through that takes a lot of effort and consciousness, awareness about yourself that I really prioritize. All right. I also have Eunice, who just commented, they have a toxic mind and you're brave enough to fight for life and yourself. You're wonderful. Thank you. It's hard to think of your parents as toxic, right? And it's like, in a way, I guess we just have to think about what that means for us. What that word toxic means is they're influenced by their families and their experience, right? So when I look at my grandparents and what I knew about them before they all passed, it's fascinating. I mean, like I see my dad makes a lot of sense to me. I like by understanding my grandfather, especially my grandma, and observing them. I spent so much time. I was very close to my dad's parents. And so my dad's behavior, like makes more and more sense to me as I get older. My mom, though, has like a mysterious family. Like, it felt like my mom kind of didn't open up as much. I was not as close to her parents. I was close to my mom's mom, but then she actually had Parkinson's, and that shifted everything. So I was only close to my mom's mom until I was like 14 or something, before Parkinson's like really took over her life. So there were a lot of like memories that I have of my mom, but I wasn't old enough. I mean, my grandmother on my mom's side, I wasn't old enough to really understand it. And so now I like look for opportunities to learn about my mom's childhood and her dynamics and all that. But I feel like she like doesn't want to share a lot of it. So it's like, I don't know exactly how my mom got all of her mindsets. It's like a lot of it's just guesswork. And so I think like the toxic mindsets can be cultural, just from society. They can come from past trauma, and they can come passed down through our DNA. Like, there's so many things like these mindsets. And I honestly think my mindset can be toxic at times. I think a lot of people's mindsets can be toxic. And that, again, is what results in things like self-sabotage and resistance and carrying extra weight and getting unhealthy. You know, like a lot of health conditions can stem out of our emotions. And it's just kind of whether or not we have a desire to unravel it and to understand it and to dissect it and say, I don't want to live like this anymore. Why have I been living this way? And what can I shift? And it's just an ongoing thing. And I want to talk about this more and more. So if you enjoyed hearing about this topic, I would love your feedback, and I would love any questions you have and topic requests. I think on this channel, I really feel empowered and excited about talking about this, but it may also start to play a bigger role in the other channel. And we'll see what happens as my brand evolves over the next few months and the coming years. Well, I'm going to go do some work. I'm going to feed my body. I'm going to put some fuel into it. I'm going to get some great work done, and then I'm going to go try to release all that resistance and armor, take it off, and just melt away into a massage tonight, which I'm so grateful to have. So thank you so much. Speaking of gratitude, thank you for being here, for holding space for me, for being part of the conversation. And it just is my deepest wish that you grow as much as I do through these videos. Every time I post this, I feel like I'm learning something new, and I'm releasing things or having realizations, and it feels really nice to share. And I really, really hope that through the sharing, there's a big benefit for you in some way, whether it's satisfying a curiosity or helping you have realizations about yourself, or helping you get to know me better so that you can feel closer to me. And yeah, I'm just very, very grateful for this channel. As I said at the beginning, please check out the Eco Vegan Pal care packages if you would like a special gift from me. I am so excited about these. There are, I think, under 20 left now, and you can use the link in the description to check them out. Each of one of them is completely unique and one of a kind. I will never have them exactly the same again. And the boxes may be added to, adjusted. There's all sorts of shifts that can happen. So even though you might pick one and know approximately what you're going to get in them, they may be slightly different when you receive them. Plus, you receive 3-month membership to Eco Vegan Pal when you get a care package, which also can get you access to the Uncensored group, where I share even more videos like this that are even deeper. So stay tuned. Plus, also, you get a copy of my current ebook, and members of Eco Vegan Pal receive free copies of all my ebooks. So when I come out with Healthy Balanced Vegan Body, that's also a membership perk, or you can buy it separately. So stay tuned. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to come out, probably towards the end of this year. And that's it for now. Thanks so much again. Sending you lots of love with your own journey through understanding yourself better and uncovering all those layers so that you can be the best person that you can be. I'm here for you if you want to leave a comment. I've been working with my assistant Melissa to answer every comment every day. So you'll hear from us there collectively, and you can also email us, you're always going to me, but sometimes it's me and my assistant Melissa who are going through the emails and comments together just to make sure they all get handled. And Eunice, no need for apologies. I think it's so important to talk about our parents open and honestly to really understand ourselves better. So I think all of us experience some level of pain. That's part of human existence, and part of the journey of life is just unraveling and seeing where we can accept pain and reduce pain, and do whatever we can to experience more peace. I will see you all very soon, wishing you all the very best. And until next time, just thank you. Bye.